I think it's just really important to, like I said, I think a lot of things get overlooked when you're abroad. I think it's amazing you get to work somewhere, live somewhere, get used to that culture.
Yeah.
But I also think it's so amazing that the way the year abroad is structured is like you live with people for 4 or 5 months, and you don't get that at Cambridge specifically. You know, you're very broken up. You know, you go home, the terms are really short, and having that way of life and learning to live together, to, you know, shop, work together, like sort out rent, do all of this, the life skills that you gain on your year abroad, and then added on top of that, they're in a different country and your second language is actually like skills that are really, really great and super invaluable. So yeah, I think there's really beautiful sides of the year abroad. I think the ability to be able to travel during some of my time off in Italy, because my work placement was only like 4 days a week, I got to go around Italy and see other people that I knew in different parts of Italy studying or working, and I just could get the train, stay with them for the weekend, you know, come back. And I think, you know, there's so many positives to the side that are aside from just working and studying.
Hello everyone, welcome to Cambridge from the Inside. We're here with a returning guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh yeah, I'm Lola. I do MML. I just finished my 4th year.
Nice, huge. Oh, nice. How does it feel to finish?
It feels great. It's kind of bittersweet. I think right now it feels great, but I think the nostalgia and everything will hit soon.
Yeah. And the weather's really nice as well. What a time to finish.
Yeah.
And today we're going to be talking about the year abroad, part of the MML course, which we'll like dive into in a bit. We're going to be talking about different things that previous students have done their year abroad, what yourself have done. So if anyone who's listening who doesn't know what the year abroad is, can you explain it to us?
Yes. So when you do MML language degree, I guess at most unis you tend to get a year abroad away from university, most likely in your 3rd year, that then renders the course like a 4-year course. So like whatever languages you study, you then embrace either 1 or 2 of them and go away for a year to either study, work, or teach for either that entire year or split into. And when I talk about year as well, it's actually the academic year. So it's like about 8 months. I think you have to spend 8 months abroad, is the Cambridge kind of rule of it. So you're away from college,
Nice. So I know you were studying French and Italian?
Yes.
So what happens if you're studying 2 languages? Do you like split your time between the two countries?
Yeah, so it's really up to you. The good thing is it's very open. It's kind of a double-edged sword. You're very open to do with it what you want to do. There also therefore is a small level of organization that is kind of on your shoulders. It's quite a lot to sort out. But as you are deciding and figuring it out, you get to choose whether you basically want to split it into in 2 countries that speak either, you know, those 2 languages, or I mean, simultaneously, you could, you know, spend half the time in, let's say, like France, and then half the time in another French-speaking country. Or you can do the entire year in one location doing one thing. So it's very much up to you. And I would say that it's very even. Certain people who do, I mean, obviously everyone does too, but there's quite a lot of people choose to stay in one place and quite a lot of people choose to do 2.
Nice. So what did you do in your year abroad?
So for me, in my first half, I went to Paris and I went to university there, and I studied for a semester at Sorbonne Nouvelle, and I did like cinema courses, a lot of film related and visual media courses, because you can also pick the courses when you go to university. And so I lived in Paris for ended up being about 4 to 5 months, I think I was there. It kind of crossed over because the time that we kind of got our apartment, we were there like a little bit early before term started. So you can be somewhere for longer than 8 months. That's just like kind of up to you. You just have to be there for a minimum of 8. And then once that was over, I went to Milan and I worked for, again, I think 4 months for a organisation called like FI at a villa called Villa Necchi. So it was a gallery museum working internship kind of thing. So I split it, but did 2 different style of things.
Yeah, nice. I think most people, when they're like, I know learning a language as part of a degree is much more intense than learning a language outside of education, but they'd be worried about whether they either moving to a different country, how they'll like fit in and like get to know people. Like how did you find those things, and how have like other ML students found like fitting into their new environment during their year abroad?
Yeah, I think definitely that's a worry. I mean, I think it's important to consider you've also done that at university, you know, in first year or whatever. Moving to somewhere new is obviously sort of daunting, but you have kind of gone through that with your first year in Cambridge and everything. I think in terms of what you do, it really varies. So me with studying, and with a lot of other people I know who study, you're being thrust yet again into a university environment, and therefore you're amongst peers of, you know, you're the same age from that location, or also from other international backgrounds. So therefore it is easier to make friends, right? Because you're amongst loads of people who are still also making friends. At the same time, there's occasionally, for example, a few, you know, little cliquey groups within that university that's like a bit hard to get into. Just like in any world, it's a bit more difficult to kind of make friends who have already established kind of like such firm friends, especially if it's like third year university. So I think that definitely, the university life lends itself to, you know, social activities, meeting people, being around them in class and everything. On the other side, for me with like working, and I think with a lot of people with working, with other people who worked, so working in, I don't know, multiple places like law firms, like architecture firms, like I think talent agencies, things like this. There were a lot of different working in those environments where there were older, I guess, you know, it's like older people working, right? Exactly. Professionals who are already in that environment. I think that's a little different because you are coming in as an intern who's like 21. Slightly harder to integrate. At the same time, I know loads of people that had some great times going, you know, on like work events, going out for dinners with those like friends, despite the fact they were like, you know, 10 years, 20 years their senior. For me, my internship actually had a lot of other young people involved. So like young Italians who actually were involved in this internship, specifically because it's kind of a, let's say, like non-profit organization, and the world of art and museums is something that quite a lot of young people want to go into. So there were actually quite a lot of young people simultaneously in the same position as me, which was a great way to like make friends in that regard. So I think it really depends what you do, but I think it's just so important that you will make it your own and you will meet people. Like there is just no point being worried about that, I think.
Nice. That's really cool. And one thing I noticed that you never mentioned language barrier as like one of those things.
I guess, I think it's true, because also it's important to know that they know you're there as a language student and as an English person, and I don't know, people are nice. Maybe I'm naive, but people are nice, I think.
But would you say like by the time when you're in your third year in an MML course, like you have enough proficiency to be able to, for language not to be hardly a barrier?
I think that's very much the aim, and I think most people are at that point, especially if you're doing like jobs, you are required to actually do the interview to go there as well, and you know that helps you understand whether you're up to that level.
Nice. And because you did Italian from scratch, it was your ab initio. How did you find living in Italy?
I think that's really interesting because I took Italian literally from scratch in first year, as simultaneously with the kind of culture and everything, because I hadn't studied the history or the literature. So definitely I think it was a bit different. I felt a little bit less secure in the fact that I knew what the people would be like and what the atmosphere would be like. But that being said, because as I said in the last podcast, the first year and simultaneous second year of ab initio is so intense, and you are kind of so constantly in that language, that I actually really did feel like I'd embraced everything to do with it, you know, because it was so important. And we'd gone on a few actual language trips with Cambridge to some places and things like this. So I think it was a little bit more daunting, but I was really, really, really excited, I think, is mainly,
Nice. And I'm just wondering, like, for people who are watching and are like quite intrigued by the year abroad, what do you know of like other people what they've done in their year abroads in like other languages and like, different places in the world?
So I think, like I said, just to also clarify, there's basically 3 options. You can study, teach, or work. So the study is, at a university. The teaching is through British Council, where you can just, you get placed in a kind of learning environment by them in a country, and you are teaching like 5 days a week or something. Then work is a bit more on you to find, let's say, like an internship or a placement or something that you can go to. But there's also a few places through the university that you can also go to. So I know in terms of universities, people went to universities literally all over, everywhere. And also lots of different universities have different focuses, some more creative, some more academic. I went to a slightly more creative one. I had some flatmates who were at Sorbonne, like the University Sorbonne in Paris, which is a little bit more, let's just say, kind of Cambridge-esque. So you can definitely choose your level of what you want to do, what you want to go, what you're after, basically.
And which was the one that you went to?
Sorbonne Nouvelle, which is like the kind of more like creative level one, which is why I did like a lot more like visual art and film and stuff like this. Then, in terms of work, I worked in like the museum sector. I had a flatmate in Paris who worked in for a law firm. I know someone, like I said, did talent agency things in Germany. So many things. A lot of, let's say office jobs in kind of like law firms and all of this. They all kind of had the same thing. But there's so much open to people.
Nice. So next thing we have is so normally like when you're studying and you're like at university, you have like the tuition loan and maintenance loan, etc. Do you get much like financial support? Or, like how does the finances work for a year abroad?
Okay, so in terms of finances for the year abroad, you get you actually maintain your whatever you get as your maintenance loan. Then actually, and this does vary person per person, but you do get a slight boost of a maintenance loan for your year abroad from student finance itself. Then on top of that, Cambridge gives you a loan called the Turing Grant, and that is an X amount of money to kind of help you live and live in your year abroad. But to note, if you do have a paid work placement, for example, the people I knew at law firms and things like this did get paid, and therefore you forfeit your right for the Turing loan, which is understandable because they get like a living wage. Actually, you get a bit more. It's quite average.
Nice. And all of this information will there'll be more of it on the website, which we can add in the caption if you're interested in finding out more. I was also just wondering, because it sounds like there's a lot of things to plan for a year abroad. Like, how did you find the logistics of planning both of your trips?
So I think it's really important. I got some information from kind of people a year above me before I went, and a lot of the kind of advice was start sooner rather than later. It's important to start thinking about what you're doing, also finalizing what you want to do, because the logistical side of sorting it out, planning things, booking things is important to do sooner rather than later. Though it is worth noting, for my Italian side, for example, I tried to kind of get on things as early as possible, and they were like, no, it's too early. They were like, go away and come back to me later. So I do think it's also important to note that the British way of doing things might be different to the way the European way of doing things. I think planning is really important, and you do get kind of information and meetings and things like this from the MML faculty, and I think it's really important to go to them, get all the information you have. A lot of previous years give testimonies over things, also to use those contacts. I know a lot of people that previous years had gone on work placements, they'd used that same work contact to kind of get another place there, because that it's great and really worth doing. So I think it's just important to start sooner rather than later, and also maybe work together with some people who are doing a similar thing to you, because you can all kind of help each other.
Yeah, because I imagine visas could take quite a long time, so it's better to start those things soon, I imagine.
Exactly. There are very specific time frames that you need to be aware of. In terms of visa and working. Sometimes you again, can't do it as early as you would like to, and you need to make sure you do it in this time frame. You need to consider that it's because your passport gets taken away and then given back to you to go. So yeah, no, a lot of things you kind of need to consider. I think it's actually a side of the year abroad that I think often gets overlooked. We become really good at doing things that most 20-year-olds aren't good at.
Nice.
Like, you know, it's kind of a cool skill to have for the rest of your life. Like, you know.
No, for sure. Yeah, I mean, most people would love to work abroad, but would hesitate with like the fear of like doing the logistics of that. But I imagine, you know, now that you finish, the world is your oyster.
Yeah, sort of.
Nice. I think that covers everything. Unless there's anything else you wanted to say about the year abroad, people thinking about MML.
I think it's just really important to, like I said, I think a lot of things get overlooked in the year abroad. I think it's amazing you get to work somewhere, live somewhere, get used to that culture. Yeah. But I also think it's so amazing that the way the year abroad is structured is like you live with people for 4 or 5 months, and you don't get that at Cambridge specifically. You know, you're very broken up. You know, you go home, the terms are really short, and having that way of life and learning to live together, to, you know, shop, work together, like sort out rent, do all of this, the life skills that you gain on your year abroad, and then added on top of that, they're in a different country and your second language is actually like skills that are really, really great and super invaluable. So yeah, I think there's really beautiful sides of the year abroad. I think the ability to be able to travel during some of my time off in Italy, because my work placement was only like 4 days a week, I got to go around Italy and see other people that I knew in different parts of Italy studying or working, and I just could get the train, stay with them for the weekend, you know, come back. And I think, you know, there's so many positives to the side that are aside from just working and studying in that city. So yeah, nice. Really cool.
Yeah, it sounds like with MML you get to learn, do a humanities degree, but also like have the opportunity to like live abroad.
Yeah, like do life. It's so cool. Yeah. And then you get to come back and like you're reignited to come like back to Cambridge. It's quite nice.
Yeah. Nice. Brilliant. Amazing. Well, thanks, Lola. Really interesting podcast. I'm sure, I mean, people have a lot of questions about the year abroad, so I hope this is helpful for those who are considering MML and now maybe doing MML at the moment. And thanks for the viewers for watching, whether it's on YouTube or your podcasting platform. We've got a lot of podcasts lined up. They'll be coming out soon, hoping to cover all the courses. So yeah, see you guys next time. Nice.
That was so fun.
Yeah, I think it was...